Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone. It is sun shining and bright out today, which makes me happy because it was kind of cold out yesterday. Welcome, Scott.
Hi, Samantha.
Today, we've got a couple of great guests. We're going to talk to City Councilor Chuck Viola, and I'm very pleased to introduce Casey Haggerty, who's our new Economic Development Manager, and we'll get into all the things related there. But before we do, we always like to catch up with you, Scott.
Yeah, that's great. So good to be here. Nice weekend, and it's nice St. Patrick's Day weekend. I was not in the city. I know there's a lot of nice events, but I was skiing in North Conway. Had a nice weekend. Mixed the alpine and the Nordic. So we did a little downhill skiing one day, and cross country the next day, and got some good food up there, up in Jackson, which is a nice little town.
It's lovely up there, and I was shocked at how much more snow there is. I was up a couple weekends ago, and it was amazing. It's like really still ski season.
It's great. They're going to be skiing for some of the mountains got more than the others, but they're going to be skiing up there for a while, and also out in the western part of the state. They get clobbered, so they've like out at Wachusett and southern Vermont, up in that in northern, they get a lot of snow, so it's great.
Yeah, so I borrowed snowshoes from the Woburn Rec and took them up with me with some friends and got to hang out at the lake. So still plenty of chances for people to do that.
Good, yeah.
I wanted to start today. We spoke a couple weekends ago about the Plimpton School, and I think the bid was about to go out or had gone out for demolition. And I didn't know if you had more details you wanted to share with us.
I don't, other than that's on the top of our list to get done, and we're like we've been saying that some of the slowdown was because of the fire station, and the fire station is they're moving in this week. They're moving the administration in, which is great. They'll be moving some of that stuff out of the Plimpton soon to get so we can get moving on that. And we still have department heads who have to pick out their documents. It's been kind of a quasi document center for us, and it's way outlived its usefulness. So it's on the agenda, and we're moving ahead. So I know the residents will be happy, and not soon enough. So I get why they're badgering you for more information.
We're just, keeping everybody informed. I think that's really great progress that people are, going to be really happy about that. So that's awesome. I did have somebody reach out to me after our discussion about the Herald Park vision and the things that are happening there. And they let me know about, I'm just checking my notes. It's 39 acres up at Forest Park, which honestly, I just didn't know anything about. Yeah. Which I think is left as just open land today. I don't think it's developed into a park, but wanted to ask you about that. Just because it's not an area that I knew about or know. Is there any recreation on there today or any plans to change that?
I don't think we have any plans. It served as a it's really just nature, and it served as a really nice area for it's been a walk. There are people walk up there. They walk their dogs. Again, like a lot of the areas, and Chuck will attest to this, a lot of the areas, because he has quite a bit of open space. It's you want the residents to use all of it, but they have their own areas, and Forest Park is one of those where it's frequented more by Central Square and that area. So it's a nice. We've got the baseball park up there, which is great, but it really is a nice walking area. The fire station only used a little over 3 acres, which is great. It was well needed, but there's a lot of walking trails up there, and at some point, maybe they could be redone, Samantha, or done over. And there are, like anything now, there's so many grants available for walking trails, bike trails, and all kinds of grants. So maybe there's something we can look into up at that area, but.
Yeah, it may be even something as little as the conservation committee, one of the cleanup days or something, spending time there, where we spend most of our time at Horn Pond for obvious reasons. But that's great. Thank you for.
And the one thing, not to belabor the point, but there will be a trailhead at the fire station, and it'll be well marked. But that was part of the design, that there'll be a trailhead where people could park their cars if they wanted to and walk throughout there.
Oh, that's great. That's good to know. I'm glad I asked about that. I did have, and I saw city council agenda. There was, I'm going to get the term wrong, Scott, so correct me, but there was sort of a movement in the last meeting to move the grant we got for the opiate substance grant case that Massachusetts wants money for that. I assume to be able to allocate that to things that we can start spending it. Is that
right?
I'm not describing it well, so save
No,
me here.
there was a glitch in the the legislation. There wasn't any legislation. When the money was awarded to the attorney, through the attorney general to the different cities and towns. And we initiated our own suit on this a long time ago, but we all joined in with the attorney general. When the money started coming out, everybody assumed that it'll be special revenue, and you could, there'd be no further action required. You would set it up, and it'd be a special revenue account that all the opioid funds would go into. That wasn't the case, and we got notice from the Department of Revenue that we had to, if you didn't set up a stabilization fund, the money would go right into the general fund.
Okay.
And then when it goes into the general fund, it, I don't want to say it gets lost, but it does, it goes in the general fund, and then, we could always appropriate it out, but it'd be much more difficult to track. So we felt the best way to do it, and for better city council control, was to set up a stabilization fund. The money goes in the account, and when we look to use it or spend it on those authorized areas that you're allowed to spend that money on, we go to city council and need a 2/3 vote. So there is more accountability. There's more tracking, and I guess more transparency, as people like to say.
Yeah, and I think that's the spirit of what the intention was. So I'm glad to see. Thank you for that. I did have a couple people reach out to me. Anne in particular had reached out and asked sort of an update on that. So that's good. That's forward. So I'm happy to hear that.
I wish some of those people that reach out to you would reach out to me.
I'm friendlier, Scott. What can I say? Actually, I'm only joking. You know that.
No, I know you are, but it's great. But I wish they would feel that they could call me. And
I suspect some of them do, but I think oftentimes it's when it's a question they think lots of people might be interested in, and so this is
no, that's good. I'm glad to put it out here too. But really, I think the message is, if anybody has any questions too, they should, in addition to calling you, they should always call me or one of the aldermen as well. Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. I agree with that. This is a silly little thing, but I always check the events on our website before we talk, just to see what meetings and things. And it looks like there's not really anything past the end of this month. There's like one city council meeting. I don't know who runs the website to alert them to that, but I thought I would mention it to you.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's just a clerical thing that's not turned on it for some reason.
Wait till you talk to Casey about the website. She's got all kinds of plans, so that'll be good.
Now I'm excited. The marketer in me loves that. So that's awesome. The last thing on my list, Scott, that I wanted to ask you about was, I know in the last city council meeting there was a detailed list of the expenses that make up the request to the Woburn Teachers Association that need to be reimbursed. So it was, there's been an amount out there, but this sort of broke down what that covered. Is there a place that people can get that? I actually wasn't sure where to direct people to, or even who to ask about.
We could make it part of the the contract when it's signed. We could make it part of that. We signed the memorandum agreement, but when after the full contract is signed, we can submit that. It will be submitted to city clerk, and I don't have any problem submitting that information. In fact, I think the council did accept that, so I'll confirm with Lindsay and those expenses. And remember, those expenses that were in there were much greater than what we actually required the Woburn Teachers Association to pay back. So all of those expenses that were on there are accurate, and expenses that we will incur or have incurred just due to the strike, the nature of the strike, and again, they were in excess of what we ultimately asked the teachers to pay, the Woburn Teachers Association.
Yeah, great, awesome. Well, thank you for that update. I just know a lot of people have been asking about that. So, anything you want to cover before I let you go?
No, I think we're back on track, and there's always going to be different things that pop up we can talk about, and we're deep in the budget season now. We're working with the department heads to finalize their budgets, working with the the school department, and we've got capital stuff as well. And then, we're closing out, we're looking at our budget to see what steps we need to take. As far as there are certainly some accounts that are overrun. Some of our revenue estimates might have come in higher, lower than we expected. So we're looking at all that. This is just about the start of the fourth quarter, so it's an important time for us from a financial perspective. So we'll be really busy for the next 3 months.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Scott. I appreciate
Good.
the update.
Okay.
And for those of you who are listening, just in terms of general city business, before I have Chuck join us, we know April is coming up, which is Easter and Passover season for many people. And actually, I'm not sure the dates of Passover this year, so it might be March. So ignore what I said there. But the reason I mention it at all is because there's a group, lots of the churches do baskets and gifts for family who might need help celebrating Easter. But also there's a group, Holidays in Wooville. If you haven't participated in past years, I know they have started to recruit for that. So just letting folks know and reminding you about that service as well.
First day of spring too, Samantha.
And I'm so grateful. And I actually put this out there, and I hope somebody listening calls me. I kill plants every spring because I'm so sick of winter that I plant things like it's first day of spring. I'm going to go plant all my flowers. They all die every time. I waste a ridiculous amount of money. So this year, I'm hoping somebody out there who's a great gardener or a landscaper or works at a nursery will come on the show and teach me and everyone else exactly what we should be doing correctly to welcome spring in.
Sure. Thank you.
Chuck, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Samantha.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to believe that you have been in office long enough that we're almost near the next election cycle. As
Right.
you look back, I'm hoping you don't regret having taken on this job.
No, absolutely not. I actually enjoy it very much so. I'd like to give back to the community, as I see you everywhere that I'm at. So all these different events throughout the city, always being there for the residents, and then just being there so if somebody calls, I'm there to answer the phone or an email to fix a problem that they may have.
That's great. Tell us a little bit about the things that you're most proud of or happy you've been able to tackle as you've come on. Clearly, you've been really responsive to people, and I know you care a lot about the infrastructure and the things that are happening in your ward.
Yep. So during the infrastructure bill that the federal government signed, Catherine Clark was able to get $1.2 million for Ward 7 in particular, for the Cambridge Road and Bedford Road intersection, to have that improved. And that coincides with the Mass DOT, their TIP program, which that intersection is one of the worst in the state. And within the next 5 years, we should have, they're working on a plan now, but within the 5 years, they'll have that whole area fixed.
I happen to use that intersection at least 4 times a week. It happens to be where I drive through quite a lot. So that intersection is not pleasant. So I'm happy to hear. Congratulations on advocating for that. I love that. I know you're also on a number of subcommittees. Tell us a little bit about some that you feel really passionate about and what's been going on there.
I'm on the special permits committee, which is, we're always busy because there's always a developer coming forward with their projects that we have to review and then get peer reviews and then decide whether or not they're a good fit for the city of Woburn or for the area that they're going in. I'm also on the finance committee, which the budget season now, when the budget comes up, I'll be going over that. Mondays, I'm on the accounts and audits committee. So after I'm done speaking here, I have to actually go to City Hall and audit the books for the week for what the expenditures were. So,
well, thank you for doing that, because somebody needs to get into those details. These are really great, and we're so appreciative of your time. But sitting on city council isn't always easy. What has been some of the toughest things for you as you've taken on this new responsibility?
The really toughest thing was the vote for the recreational marijuana, whether to vote in favor or against it. I can't tell you how many hours of research that I have done over this whole topic and agenda. And I actually interviewed some inmates from where I work and polled them to see what drugs did they start with, and did they start with marijuana? And 90% of the inmates that I spoke with said they started on opiates, starting from pills from a doctor. Then they went to heroin. And there was very few that actually started from marijuana and then moved on to harder drugs. And then just today, I got a memo that it's in Massachusetts and towards Cape Cod that the marijuana supply for the black market is being inundated with heroin and different other opiates. So it's actually causing a lot of ODs that people aren't even realizing that it's in their marijuana. So the reason why I did vote in favor of the recreational marijuana is for the safety aspect and not for the revenue at all. I mean, the safety aspect is number one and want to keep our residents safe.
Yeah, I think so. And especially as we look at things around opiate awareness and safety in our community, that is an important high risk area when you don't know the control of where substances are coming from.
Right. And then I
so.
hope so as well with the money that we just got from the different pharmaceuticals and stuff, we can use that money for better opiate classes or for references where we could have other people get help that need it.
Yeah, me too. So I don't like to assume, so I'm just going to ask you, are you running again in this upcoming election? Are you ready to take on another term?
So I've received numerous phone calls asking me to run for a different position, but however, I am seeking re-election to Councilor of Ward 7.
Oh, that's
And I'm
fantastic.
looking
Are you
forward
going
to
to
it.
share with us the other position that people have been pushing you to do, or is that a secret?
No, people were trying to push me to run for Councilor at large.
Okay, excellent. Well, I know Ward 7 is glad to keep you. We might, all of us might be a little jealous of that, but that they get you, but.
Well, I'm there to help everybody. So no matter if you're not a constituent of mine, you're a resident of Woburn, you can feel free, email me, call me. I'm always there to help out.
Well, I love that. Thank you for all the hard work that you do. What are some of the things as you look forward to another potential term? Should you be reelected? What are some of the things that you want to make sure you're a good steward of the ward?
Yeah. Right now, actually, just past week, we in our city council meeting, we signed I forget what it was, not a bill, but we basically got over $2 million from the Industrialplex, what was it, the Industrialplex Trustees Council for $2 million to work on the Shaker Glen Wetland Restoration Project. And basically what that is, it was the property that Demolition gave to the city of Woburn, the couple acres of land that we received behind McDonald's in that private way road, where we're gonna put a retention pond in there to alleviate a lot of the flooding that occurs in the four corners. And so what it'll do is when the water's coming down from Lexington Street and from Russell Street, it'll go to this retention pond and we'll slowly let it out to go through the brooks and streams that are down of it.
Oh, that's fantastic news, because that area gets pretty beat up during high rains, and I know it also has been an accumulated trash illegal dumping site for a long time. I'm not sure why people feel like that's a great place to dump their stuff when we have pretty incredible trash services in Woburn that take almost, I mean, I know they don't take everything, but they take almost everything.
They do take almost everything, in which what I want to try maybe work with the Conservation Commission, as you were talking with Scott about, to see maybe if we can get a clean update in that area, or to work with Ren, because Ren does a lot of work around Ward 7 with all our different trails and everything.
That's
to
great.
clean up
Tell
that
me
area.
more about the trails, because I have to admit a little bit of ignorance there. I don't spend as much time in Ward 7 as I do, in some places closer to my house. Tell me about some of those areas.
So we have the Shaker Glen Conservation Area, which is, you could get to that from behind with the townhouse complex that's on Lexington Street up towards the Lexington line. And you can walk the trail in there. You can go to the left, the right, which the city now maintains it fairly well, but there are some trees that have fallen that we still need to get moved off the trails. And then also we have the Shaker Glen Conservation Area, which you can start there and go all the way up towards from like the bowl and go up from
So wait, I think you said Shaker Glen twice. Is
yeah,
it
I did, as I said that. Yeah. No, so Shaker Glen, you can get into it two places. Basically, you can get in through it from the Glen itself, which is down on Lexington Street, the lower half, or you can get it from the top half and come down, go through the trails. But then we also have on Russell Street, the Battle March Road, where the Redcoats and they came from Lexington and Concord, and they traveled that historic pathway there, which I want to see maybe in my next term, if I'm elected, to maybe make where the old Taki site is like a recreational area, but for leisure. So put some benches, let's make the trail more accessible, maybe have the people come out with the muskets and stuff and like basically do the battles like they used to do over there.
My husband's a Civil War reenactor, so different time period, but we're a big fan of American history and bringing history to life through those kinds of activities. So I'm sure that would be a fun thing to do there.
And just to touch on one thing that Scott did mention about the open space and the trails throughout the city. Now, the open space committee, which we've talked about numerous times, is to maintain the trails throughout the whole city. So that is being looked at. So for the next couple of years, that may actually get into fruition.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Chuck, as always, for joining. You're always a willing participant and eager to answer questions. And I'm so grateful. As we get closer to elections, we'll have you back on and we'll talk more about it. But really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Casey Haggerty, not related to Rich Haggerty, which you're probably sick of hearing. Every introduction probably includes that, but we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I get some Woburn credit for having the last name, although it's spelled differently.
That's right. I'm excited to have you on because not only are you new to the city of Woburn and your role, but the role is new to us, the Economic Development Manager. So tell us a little bit about what that is and what your mission is.
Yeah, so I mean, an economic development role can be a lot of everything, but according to, kind of the priority set in Woburn, I'm really the outward facing contact for businesses from City Hall. So I'm the ambassador, from City Hall to both existing businesses and new businesses. So if an existing business is running into some kind of problem, whether it be a permit or, some kind of issue with water, the idea is that business can connect directly with me and I can try to alleviate the problem before it has to be brought up to a higher level and kind of work the internal system. And then for a new business that's coming into town, they could contact me and I could connect them with, different landlords for available space. I could, connect them with the building commissioner, connect them with the city councilor and kind of be the liaison, because it can be a pretty daunting process to open a new business. So I think the idea is just to have me kind of guide people through and be that first point of contact.
That's great. This is such an important role for us, but also one of the things that we are always looking at doing is sort of balancing economic development and services in the city and things. How do you think about that in the context of your job?
Yeah, I mean, I think economic development really plays a huge role in, in balancing that. It really spurs investment in the community. It spurs job creation and job retention, increased in high quality jobs and different private investment, increases property values. And so I think it's all about, economic development really does improve the quality of life for the entire community. I think there is certainly a balance, but I think you really can't have one without the other. And I think you can see that, in Woburn, there is a high level of services and there is a good quality of life. And I think that's, a strong testament to the economic development that's been going on for years here.
That's great. So I know we would all like to believe that your life and your work started when you joined Woburn a couple of months ago, but we know that's not true. Tell us a little bit about where you came from and what you were up to.
Sure. So I came from the town of Lexington. I worked there from 2015 until the end of 2022. I started in a permitting role there doing kind of building permit, wetland permit review type thing. And then in 2018, I was just really sick of, saying no and not being like solution oriented. And so I made this transition to economic development where I'm able to help people, through the process and really focus on solutions rather than, procedural things like that. And so I've been doing it since 2018, similar role in Lexington. They have kind of a tourism branch under their arm. I was just thinking when Chuck was saying Battle Road, the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Lexington and Concord is coming up in 2025. So it'd be great to get Woburn tapped into that and really take advantage of that.
That would be really fun. And, the path does go through Woburn.
Yeah, no, I know. One of the first people I think one of the people on the green was from Woburn. So that died that day.
Really, really interesting history there. Mm-hmm. So when you look back at, in a year from now, how do you measure, success for yourself and for us as a city and how we're doing in our mission here?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a bunch of measurables that you could look at. One of the things I'm working on right now is creating baseline data to try to understand, how many businesses we have, what's the average time frame for a business to get through the permitting process. So I think looking back at raw data like that will certainly show, success. Hopefully I've created some efficiencies and streamlined processes within City Hall. So hopefully we see like a reduction in the amount of, days it takes to open. But also a big part of my job is going to be communication and outreach. So I'm building a website right now for economic development. I was hoping to have it live today, but it needs a few more tweaks. So in the next coming days, we'll have an economic development page on the city website. I'm working on a newsletter. Eventually we'll be doing, social media channels. And so I think measuring outreach and connections through those numbers will also be pretty telling, because like you said, it's a new position. So there's no program right now. So I think, looking back at the different initiatives we've started over the year will be pretty telling.
That's fantastic. I love websites because in my real life where I actually get paid to do things, I'm in marketing. That's what I do. So tell us a little bit preview of what's to come on that page.
Yeah, so really it is going to be like a marketing tool for the city. I eventually hope to build it out bigger, really build a brand for Woburn. But right now it's going to have, some really solid numbers and statistics about opening a business in Woburn, the different organizations that we're part of that we can connect a potential business owner with. It'll have a place that will highlight like featured initiatives, like some of the exciting things that are already happening in Woburn that I don't think we promote enough will get highlighted there. There'll be a way to, subscribe to the newsletter from the website, as well as feature any news or, important public meetings or upcoming dates that are happening. But I really hope it to be a marketing tool more than anything, make it look good and, attractive to a potential business.
One of the things that we are fortunate to have in Woburn is we have a lot of variety. We have, some industrial areas, we have some office spaces and lots of different companies in there. We have some retail, we have lots of amazing restaurants. Is there an area of focus that's the first priority for you?
I mean, economic development is really like an ecosystem, and I think you really need them all to have a true strong economy. Like you need those small local businesses to create like those gathering places, and they give back so much more to the community than than just acting as a restaurant or a service. So you really need those to support the community and create those gathering places. And then you need the larger businesses that really allow Woburn to have the services that we do have, and they kind of create that backbone. And then you need the retail amenities that support those businesses. So I really do see it as an ecosystem, not necessarily one thing more than another, all of them working together in an alliance. I know the center gets a lot of attention from the community, so I look forward to, working in that area. Right now, the Pocket Park is under construction, so the revitalized Pocket Park should be opening in early summer, which I'm really excited about that because I think it'll be a good tool for placemaking and different events and really drawing people to the downtown and, letting people know what's down there. That'll be a really good tool.
Yeah, that'll be really fun. I look forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we have heard over the years, a lot of it, I'm sure it's come up as you've been getting to know the city, is that in-city transportation is a challenge. If you don't have a car getting from the center to one of the industrial parks, or if you have employees you want to bring in that maybe take the train or a bus, it's hard for them to get to specific parts of our city. Is that anywhere, has that bubbled up as something that you're looking at, or is that a later down the road, priority?
Yeah, I think that'll be a longer term goal, but it certainly has come up. I think transportation is a regional problem, and it's not something that Woburn is going to be able to solve on its own. But I think working with the neighboring communities, will be key. The city also just joined the Middlesex 3 Coalition, which is an economic development group and transportation management agency, a TMA, that's run out of Lowell. And so I think, they run different shuttles in different communities. So we're now able to tap into their knowledge and expertise. So I think there certainly are options, and it's a daunting problem for the whole region. But I do look forward to, collaborating with other communities and other departments on, trying to come up with some solutions.
That's great. I'm glad we're part of that alliance.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit of what you're learning, right? So you came from Lexington. I'm hoping you had a little familiarity with us before you decided to plunge in, but I'm sure as you've gotten to know us as a city, you're learning things along the way. What are some of the things that you've learned?
I mean, you started to touch on it. I mean, it's the most interesting use of business, mix here. We have small businesses, industrial parks, commercial office parks, state-of-the-art labs. So just kind of understanding, how things were built is really fascinating. The history of industry in Woburn is, long time back. And so I'm starting to understand the history and meet with the various players. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's why you did it this way because of such and such. So the history here is really interesting. And also just like the pride people take in their city seems, really strong here. Not that it isn't in other communities, but there's a lot of, most of the business owners that I've met also live in Woburn, and they're really invested in the city and really invested in the community. So that's been really, really interesting to learn and understand along the way. Along with just coming, I came from a small town that had a town manager and select board and town meeting, and now coming to a mayor and city council is a little bit of an interesting challenge. And learning how to navigate that system versus the other system is interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing. I always think of Woburn as being one of the biggest little cities and little towns in the world, right? Like we have the amenities and we are a city, but we also have a really engaged government that's really accessible and community, participates in the community quite a lot. I imagine you've spent some time with the Woburn Chamber of Commerce. In what ways does the city maybe partner with the Woburn Chamber of Commerce to address the opportunities ahead of us?
Yeah, the chamber has been a great partner and resource for me so far. Chris Kissel has been really great with inviting me to meetings. So I'm attending their monthly meetings now, introducing me to the board members, connecting me with all the businesses. That's been really, really helpful just to have, kind of a known Woburn person be able to make those connections for me. He's hosting an event on March 28th at 7:30 in the morning where myself and the mayor will be there kind of hosting a fireside chat. So that's open to the community if anyone would like to attend that. It's at the library. And so, yeah, the chamber and I are working very closely. I mean, they are representing, their members, where I'm representing all city businesses, not necessarily just members, but we're working really well together. And I think between the two of us, Woburn's in good shape.
I love that. That's great. Last thing I wanted to ask you about is just, as residents or business owners of businesses here in Woburn, what's the best way for them to engage you and help support your mission and help support overall, strong and healthy economic development in the city of Woburn?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, shop local, support the Woburn businesses. We have new businesses moving downtown all the time, and if we have to support them in order for them to be able to stay. And so I think that would make my job the easiest if everyone could just, really think about, doing all of your shopping and dining, local as you can. But also sign up for my newsletter. That way you can be connected with any future initiatives that might need resident or business owner support. That'll be my main way to be getting out, the message to the community. And then social channels once that comes along. And then feel free to email or connect. I'm really trying to meet with as many people as possible right now. That's my goal for the next, the first 6 months is meet, all the business owners, all the property owners. I'm sure all the residents have great ideas. So I'm really accessible. Feel free to stop by or meet. I don't have any pressing initiatives right now that need a ton of community support. We're building up the base right now, but I think, as we move along, it'll be really important to have support from residents and business owners.
That's great. Well, I'm so thrilled you're here. Thank you for joining us and getting to know you as you grow and the programs you run grow. Please know you have an open invitation to come on anytime and we'll chat about what's new. And Woburn, as always, please continue to take good care of each other.